The winder and the FilaWinder are ready to go. The FilaWinder is all heated up. And I have the winder mounted to the wall with the intake plate into the slots, mounted perpendicular to the base so the filament can come up from below. And before switching on the power, I'm going to set it up to auto so that the spool doesn't start turning when I switch it on. So I switch on the power, and the first thing I'll do is I'll hold down the left guide button. I'll position my guide to the left edge of the spool, and then I'll push the right guide button and use the knob to position the guide at the right side of the spool. And then since I'm in auto mode, this middle button will set the current position of the guide. This is where it'll start moving. And the direction the guide will move is the direction that it was going when you last let go of the button. So now as it spins, it's going to move this way. Now, I'm going to turn the knob all the way down so that when I switch to manual, the spool doesn't turn. Because what I'm going to do now is in manual mode, the middle button will calibrate the sensors. And I don't want the spool to turn because I don't want it to trigger the Hall sensor in the middle of calibrating the laser, because that can kind of cause things to be unpredictable. I'm going to pick up a piece of filament and have it ready to go. And I'll push the middle button to calibrate the sensors. As soon as you hit this, it goes into calibration mode for 5 seconds and then exits calibration mode again. So hit the middle button. And over the next 5 seconds, wave the filament between the sensors and the laser. The winder will store the lightest values and darkest values so that it will know what a shadow of the filament actually looks like. While in manual mode, it's not a bad idea to turn the knob and make sure that the spool turns. Now if you find that the knob is backwards, so that turning it right turns the spool down and turning it left turns the spool up, then the potentiometer has been plugged in backwards. And just unplug it, switch it around, and plug it back in again. So I'm going to switch over to auto to make sure the sensor is working. Now if the spool is running when you switch it to auto, as soon as it detects a filament at the top of the sensors, it should stop. And then as it goes below the middle point, start up again and stop as you go above the middle point. So now I'll switch on the FilaWinder motor. Start guiding the filament in the direction of the sensor. I'm going to try and move it into a gentle loop across the top of the sensor and over to the winder. Once it's cooled, it'd be a good time to snip off any the bad end. As it's extruding, I'm going to do your best to keep the angle coming out of the nozzle to be consistent. Try and let it go toward the sensor the whole time, and try not to let it change too much. Okay, now I'm going to put the end into the PTFE tube. Try my best to do this without causing too much change over here at the nozzle. Right. Slowly push it into the tube and try and keep it at roughly the same rate that it's extruding. I'm using this hand to still try and maintain that angle coming out of the nozzle as much as I can. Once there's enough filament to come up through the tube and through the guide, stop the motor and secure it to the spool with just like a piece of tape. And once you have it in place, turn the motor back on. And now it's getting down close to the guides, so I'm going to move it into the guides. As it drops down the sensor, the auto mode of the spool will start taking it in. Now the filament has a few kinks and waves just from all the handling that I did. so it's going to take a little bit for it to even out into a nice smooth loop. Now as it spools up, I'm just going to keep my hand here to try and keep the filament reasonably steady. Now you might find that the filament is riding steadily along one of the guides, like these here. So if that's happening, just slide the sensor mount, give it a little turn until you see that it hangs freely in between them. Sometimes the filament comes out of the nozzle with a little bit of a twist and making it go sideways. Ideally it should hang free and not rub up against anything, and that will give you your best tolerances. Doesn't always happen that way because there could be some side-to-side movement from twisting as it comes out, but I can get it to hang freely most of the time, then you'll get better results. You can see how the filament is piling up right here on the end. That means I have the left limit too far over and it'll need adjustment. Now keep in mind that the guide is going to jump to whatever position is set with the knob. So if I hit the button now, it's going to go all the way to the side. So before I hit the guide limit button, I'm going to turn the knob up to approximately the area where I want it to be. And I'll hold the button, and I'm just going to ease it in a little bit more from where it was. In addition to spooling up during extrusion, the FilaWinder can be used for respooling filament from other spools or from a coil that you might have bought that you want to get back onto a spool. Just pull the motor back so that the gears are disengaged, and use a drum attachment from a Dremel on the drill to spin the spool, and the guide will still continue to work.